There's this giant Viking rune that reads, "When kings fought." And the day that kings fought was about 1,025 years ago on September 9th, 10th, 11th. King of Norway was this guy named Olaf Tryggvason, and he was on this giant ship known as the Long Serpent with 10 other ships with him, and he was ambushed by like 60 or 70 competing ships, including the King of Norway, or he's the King of Norway, the King of Sweden, the King of Denmark. They attack his ships. And the thing that you really need to know is that he's the guy who had just pretty forcefully brought Christianity to the Vikings. He had kind of forcefully baptized people, he had destroyed temples, and when he's attacked, he decides to begin yelling off of the ship all of these things at these competing kings. He's yelling at them that they're horse eaters and that they should go home and lick out of their sacrificial bowls. So these are kind of ethnic slurs of the Viking era. He has all of his men lash the ships together with rope so that they become, these 11 ships he had become basically a giant floating fort, which is useful in some ways because it creates a great place to do battle from, but it's worse because you can't just escape in the way that you might have been able to if you hadn't hung out screaming ethnic slurs and tying your ships together. They have this giant Viking versus Viking battle. We don't know how much of the battle was because he was just kind of a jerk. There's long record of him being kind of a jerk. There's this classic thing where he had proposed to Sigrid the Haughty, and she had turned down his marriage proposal, and he had slapped her face with a glove and like created some sort of feud there. But by the time that the poets were writing these oral traditions into written traditions, Christianity had firmly become part of the Viking culture. So while it may be that one of the reasons they were irritated with him was because of the way that he was destroying the pagan religious practices, that kind of gets lost in the narrative. What we know is that he got ambushed. We don't know if he jumped off the ship himself. Some poets say he disappeared in a beam of light off of the bow of the ship, but I, I, I find that less reliable. But this was this turning point. It changed the geography of all of those regions. The existing kind of competing kings broke up all of his land, and this giant floating flotilla of a battle became something that was for 100 years oral, and then became poetic, and then became this thing that we've tried to piece together for 1,000 years as this turning point in Viking history.